You said the American entrepreneurial story.
So, one of the guys on my production staff brought us a book a couple weeks ago and said, "You have to read this." Now, I wasn't familiar with his last book. What's his last book?
It's called Console Wars, and I had him on Wonderful World of Stu at one point, which is just a really in-depth telling of basically Nintendo versus Sega in the '90s. It's really interesting if you look through that era. And actually, Seth Rogen's making it into, like, I think, a movie or a series now.
And he's really a good writer. And as he said on the air today, I write with my grandmother in mind. Mm-hmm. If my grandmother doesn't understand, then I have to rewrite it. Okay, and so
he tries to de-nerd it as much as possible.
Okay. So what he wanted to do is he set out to write a book in, I think, 2012 or 13 about Oculus Rift. Okay, so Oculus was started by this guy who, I mean, I didn't even know his name. Blake Harris.
That's the author's
Oh,
name.
no. What was the Oculus
I can't
Rift
think of his name off the top of my head.
I can't remember
Palmer
this guy.
Luckey?
Yes, Palmer Luckey.
Yeah.
So
That's his real name, by the way.
Yes.
And I know, I was like, wait, that can't be right.
So this is Palmer Luckey. He's like 19 years old. He's living in a trailer. It's like a beaten down, awful trailer, and he's making Oculus. Okay, he cracks the code. Nobody else has been able to crack the code for artificial reality, which is amazing.
Does it from scratch in a trailer that they describe as basically out of Breaking Bad. Like that. This is an amazing story.
Have you seen the pictures of it?
Oh, yeah, it's not.
It's like, it's, woof. Okay. So he gets the attention of Mark Zuckerberg. When he gets the attention of Mark Zuckerberg, Zuck loves it and says, "I'll buy it for $2 billion, but you have to come with it." Okay? Now, I'm with Zuckerberg right around the time that he's buying this, and I know he is so proud of this because he was very upset that I couldn't stay. He wanted to show Oculus, and I wanted to see it, but I had to catch a plane back. And they were all about Oculus. This is the future. Artificial reality is the future. It's amazing. Okay. Then Trump. Then it comes time for the election. This kid makes a $10,000 anonymous donation to a group that is buying some billboards across the country with pro-Trump messages on it. Well, somehow or another, somebody in Silicon Valley finds out about this and outs him and says he's a Trump supporter. And then the stories come out that he is the guy behind all of the wicked memes on the internet. That Facebook's Oculus guy is responsible for all of this. So if you see these horrible memes online, it's him. None of that is true.
Yeah, needless to say, it came from the Daily Beast, so you can probably assume none of it was true.
So none of it's true, but everybody's buying into it. He wants to write a note that says, "I did not do that. I would never do that. I am a supporter of Donald Trump, but not all Donald Trump supporters are bad." Zuck, it goes all the way to Zuck, and Zuckerberg looks at that and says, "Okay, you're not sending this out. Here's what you are sending out. You're voting for Gary Johnson." Okay? He rewrites the whole thing and says, "This is what you're sending out. I'm not for Trump. I've never been for Trump. I'm for Gary Johnson. I'm a libertarian." This is illegal stuff, okay? Paper trail everywhere. So Blake is this really well-known writer. He's 2012, long before the election. He gets full access to everything at Facebook because he's a great writer, well-known, was voted by like Publishers Weekly and everybody else Book of the Year, his book before this. He has total access. He's a fan of Facebook, and he's a lefty. So Zuck has nothing to worry about, he thinks. This guy goes in, and then he starts to see, wait a minute. He's telling you that you can't be for Trump. He sees the corruption inside of Facebook. He's written this new book. It took him 2 years longer for him to deliver it to the publisher than he expected because he wanted to make sure it was right. He can't find a job. No one will give him an interview. And it's an amazing story. This guy was fired. Oculus Rift is no longer his. It's kind of in the trash can now with Facebook in a way. Zuckerberg did illegal stuff. It shows the corruption in there. It shows how you do not want this company. He can't get an interview. We had him on the air today. This is the first real interview he's done. His book was 33,336 when we interviewed him. And I heard his story, and I said to the audience, you have to reward this guy. Because this author went on and said, I have to tell you, I've talked to my journalist friends. I'm a lefty. I've talked to them, and they said, big deal, the guy liked Donald Trump. So what? Who cares? Shut up. And they've ostracized him for telling the truth. And he's just crazy. No one will buy his book. He hasn't another job. He's got nothing. I said to the audience, buy this book. Show him that we appreciate people who tell the truth, let the chips fall where they may. Just before we went on, somebody came in. It is now number 6 overall.
That is amazing.
From 33,336 on Amazon to number 6 because of the Glenn Beck radio audience. We need to make this book number 1. And every single conservative show needs to have this guy on. The story is unbelievable.
And
Unbelievable.
that also shows the power of the grassroots movement.
Does.
I mean, it really does.
It does.
Yeah, and it shows how bad the media is. I mean, because, look, this guy Console Wars is not a political book at all. This is not a political book. I mean, 2/3 of it really have nothing to do with politics whatsoever. He was going to turn in a book that was about virtual reality technology and the kind of cool culture and backstories, which are fascinating. Instead, it wound up having this extra bit put on, which is basically this guy gets, vilified. He didn't do any of the things he was accused of. He said on the air he would stake his life on it that he didn't do any of these things that he was accused of. That's how sure he was.
He said, I took an extra 2 years to make sure. He was a huge fan of Zuckerberg and a huge fan of Facebook. He
Totally
is
turned on.
totally turned. He's like, this is an evil company. They're doing bad stuff. And Zuckerberg is in on all of it. He knows.
Did he say why Palmer Luckey got fired? Because he went along with it at first, right? And then he got fired later.
He did.
He was told that he had to take a vacation. So he took a vacation for a month and then played along and expected to be rehired. Then they had this big corporate conference call, and he found out on the conference call that he had asked for another 2 weeks of vacation, which he hadn't done. And he's like, uh-oh. And then they fired him. They let him go.
And the main thing, too, to point out here is that this is not just speculation. He has the actual emails from Mark Zuckerberg doing these things.
It's in the book.
Now, you can't force an employee, under any business, any situation, you can't force an employee to say that they're voting for someone else and release statements in their voice that, I mean, look, he agreed to it, wanting to keep his job. So there's that. But I mean, this is stuff that is, if it's not borderline legal, it is illegal. Blake Harris said it is illegal. This is stuff that they have lots of evidence for. I mean, think about this for a second. I mean this as a criticism. I expect the mainstream media to avoid this sort of thing, though that it's this guy who's a left-winger who has incredible credibility going to the same people he talked to about his last book and them saying to him, he said, he was giving us quotes like, that's not the kind of political discrimination we're looking for. I mean, this is incredible. So, but I expect that from the left-wing media. The right-wing media just doesn't maybe not know about it, but the fact that this isn't a big story is incredible. I mean, Covington is a good example of this. Like, that was a huge story for the right. That's one kid. He's matched up with a ridiculous, situation with a Native American and a drum, and it was a story for 2 weeks. This is a guy who invented a technology bought for $2 billion out of a trailer, and then has revolutionized this entire world of virtual reality. And he got fired from a company that is on everyone's radar screen for doing shady things and having all sorts of negative activities and having too much power and wielding that power in weird ways. And they fire him because of his political beliefs, and even the right hasn't picked up on it. I hope that changes. It looks like it is happening today, considering his book going up that high.
I urge everybody in the audience to buy this book and then tell whoever you listen to. I mean, I listen to Chad's podcast. You should have this guy on.
I will have him on, absolutely.
It's amazing.
And I want to go on record as saying, I think the book will be number 1 by tomorrow morning at the latest, but I want to go on record as saying I'm the one responsible for all the mean memes. I'm putting them together. I'm putting them together in a book form.
Right.
And it's going to be endorsed by Glenn Beck, and we're going to the top, too.
Yeah, right.
We're taking it, and it will be the story that no one else has heard.
I think I would push a mean meme, the worst memes out there. I think I would.
Meanest memes on the planet.
Yeah.
You're welcome, America.
Mean memes.
Right to the top. Back in a minute.